And we're back. Thank you for joining us. All right, so where we left off last episode, or rather last session, is just after the intense experience that On and Eridu had together. They got outside of the Razor Leaf and they realized it was very nearly dawn, and they had been doing all sorts of crazy stuff since about midnight. So, much needing the rest, they all parted ways, went and got some sleep, and were able to have some time in the afternoon to take care of some stuff. On did somewhat of an investigation. He started an investigation to find out more information about the wide-reaching impact that the drug Sapphire Dream has had on Twin Harbor. He's trying to learn more about the effects of it, the spread of it, and he also heard this interesting little bit of information about some ambassador from the Celestial Kingdoms who's going to be coming to Twin Harbor in about 3 days to broker some kind of deal.
Yes, Ambassador Taladris.
Taladris, yeah, that's his name. Yeah. So, essentially, you guys' your characters can say that you had a rendezvous point, like, hey, we're going to go get some sleep, we're going to go do our own thing, but meet at the Cornerstone Tavern at, like, 6 p.m. or something like that, and you guys can talk about what it is that you want to do. Like,
we can talk about it.
Yeah, just try and, like, process all the information about everything that happened last night, and talk about, like, where you want to go and what you want to do with this information that you have now.
Okay.
All right. Shall we meet up at the tavern that Eridu and On would have been in at various points, but Alton might not have been to? The one that Garth frequents?
I think, given that is the Cornerstone Tavern and our GM has already dictated that, yeah, we can give it back.
I was totally listening and paying attention.
You were. You totally were. I mean, I think we even discussed going there off camera.
Yeah.
You guys are doing a great job already. I'm very proud. You're on top of it.
I remembered the ambassador's name.
Yes, you did.
That's pretty good.
I'm so proud.
I was away from the stream at the moment.
What was the name of the bar then? Because I'll need to make a note of that.
The Cornerstone.
Yeah.
Oh, it's called the Cornerstone.
It is called the Cornerstone.
Sorry,
no, it's not. I'm sorry. It's called the Stone's Throw.
Oh. That was
no,
that was a.
No, it was from the first. Well, it was from the prologue, my prologue game.
That's right.
You established the Cornerstone.
That's right. You're right.
Right. Okay. Right.
The stones' names are all gonna.
Yeah.
There will be no stone in any of the dwarven names. I promise you that.
Yes.
We did talk about that. No lame stereotypical dwarfs.
Like, what do we have there? Ragdar Hammer or something?
No, it's Tordek Stonehammer.
Tordek. That's right, because you actually had him named after the pre-gen character.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who was my favorite? Anyway, enough sidetracking. We're going to the Cornerstone.
The Cornerstone.
Yes. Go to the Cornerstone, grab a table, grab a round of drinks. I think I'll grab a round of drinks because I'm now flush with cash. I have 200. I should not have 205 gold. For some reason, my D&D Beyond thing did not save. I have 204 gold.
Oh man.
Rolling.
Yeah. But yeah, that's still quite a considerable amount. So yeah, I'll get the round in.
Okay. You buy a round for the house. There is a wide cheer that erupts from the early evening drinking crowd that's in there. You look around the dark, smoky-filled room. This is like, you get the same, when you walk into the Cornerstone, you get the same sense of nostalgia and comfort that you get from walking into your local dive bar, back home. It's almost like the Cheers crowd, like, walk in, they're like, hey!
I mean, we've already got, Alan as the bartender and Garth as one of the regulars.
Alan! Yeah. Yeah, Alan is looking especially happy today. You know, like
Is there no
just
Garth in sight?
there's no Garth in sight. That's absolutely the other thing I was gonna say is you look around and it'd be pretty easy to see Garth if he was here, and
Right.
you don't see him,
That's the
and
thing the audience wouldn't know though, because we didn't record the first episode.
Garth is extremely robust, but we can.
He's
you
a
know,
large
he'll
man.
Show up. He'll show up in later games.
He
We'll give
he
him
did
the-
show up in episode 2 as well. The recordings of which are going up online as a continual process. I
Yes.
understand.
Yes.
We did talk about his girth in that one as well.
yes. So Garth and his girth are not present at the cornerstone. You are surprised to see Emily all the way on the very farthest edge of the bar, and it seems like she has not quite noticed you guys yet. She is in her cups, as they say.
Ooh, how many cups?
Strange.
How many
Oh.
cups is she in?
Oh, just maybe a second one. You know.
Okay. Are we coming in together or are we coming in separately?
I would assume separately.
Yeah,
Um,
this will be like a rendezvous point.
Yeah, it would be rendezvous point. In which case, I would like to point out because that I showed up 15 minutes before our meeting time, which I just wanted to point that out because if you recall, last night I showed up 15 to 20 minutes late.
Okay.
So it was important for me to point that out. That it would be something that you guys would have noticed a difference in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I still haven't worked out what he was saying about On and Eridu switching sides. Is that just?
Oh, I'm assuming like the 4-panel
it swapped. Okay.
thing.
Yeah. That will happen. It's all a matter of current popularity and who is just better looking. So
That's why I'm on top.
yeah, Josh has got the top seat there.
You know.
Yeah. All right. So
We all know it's not his looks; it must be the popularity.
Yeah.
You do what you got to do.
So,
Alright, so-
you guys are having a great time at the Cornerstone.
Yes.
I was gonna go right in and
Okay.
walk right up to Emily
Okay.
and sit down with her. Well, I'll be polite. May I sit with you?
Of course. You're,
Take a
al-
seat. And,
you're always welcome.
Emily, what brings you here tonight? Today? Night day? What is it?
It's about
It'll be
6:30.
It's evening.
Yeah.
It's evening.
This time of year, the sun moves so little. I barely know.
Yeah.
As you can see, like his pupils seem a little out of focus.
Oh. All right. Maybe I'll make a little roll for Emily to see how wigged out she gets. Sure, she
So
doesn't.
do you want her stats?
No, it's fine. She doesn't seem to be.
Fucking observant.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be phased at all by your kind of interesting altered appearance.
Not, to be fair, not actually high.
Oh, I know.
But
But you definitely have like that kind of weird afterglow
yeah.
going on.
Mhm.
Yeah, she doesn't seem to be phased at all, and she just nods a little heavily. Her eyes are a little droopy, and says, I just came here to have some dinner and do some thinking. I keep forgetting it's been so long since Akram died.
Yes.
Seems like he was just here.
And I am sure that every day feels longer than the one before. And again, I cannot say enough how deeply sorry I am. I wish that I could have been there. I wish that I could have done something, and this is something I think about all the time.
I hope you can find some way to cope.
I am making choices.
I'm just gonna roll another check just for fun. Okay. Sure. Her eyebrow lifts a little bit, but she doesn't like really give you any different kind of reaction. And says, "I wish you all the best, Eridu. I know that you and Akram really shared something special."
Yes. He was a very unique person. I find when it comes to this loss, I don't always have many words to say. Especially when no one feels it deeper than you. And I do feel guilt at, you know, when you have a loss, no matter who it is, someone feels it harder than you. And I feel bad that I only see my own perspectives sometimes.
Don't be too hard on yourself, Eridu.
It seems to be the thing that I have become good at lately. But I appreciate your words. You were right.
At that, she gets up from the stool. You notice just the slightest bit of stumbly aspect to her movements, and she grasps you on the shoulder and says, "You must come see me and the Tranquility crew sometime soon."
Yes. Did you ever figure out if Akram finished that instrument he was making for me?
No, that was you were given that instrument.
Duh.
That was yeah. That was like that he gave you that on the first episode, or not the first episode, the second episode.
Yeah, Asa.
That was.
I distinctly remember that it didn't.
Because we had time and he finished it and gave it to you. That was.
Maybe it was something they got flushed over and I forgot. Okay, well.
So
maybe Eridu was just having a lapse of memory.
Yeah. Emily will be happy to remind you. He did give it to you. I hope you've been enjoying it.
Yes, of course.
He
it has been a long week.
I understand. Be well. And at that, she walks confidently, if a little uneasily, out of the Cornerstone Tavern.
Hooray for Eridu, making situations so awkward. NPCs must leave.
You guys are doing great. You guys are doing great. I support you.
Well, it means that it wasn't me making the situation awkward, which is good.
Taking turns.
Yeah, I'll after acting as an impromptu waiting staffer and giving out the drinks that I've bought for everyone, I shall then gather up mine and Eridu's drinks and Alton's drink and take them over to a small table for us to be able to talk at.
Mm-hmm. And
We'll talk to each other at the table. We won't talk at the table. That would just be weird.
Unless it's the table that Eridu is currently sitting at, he'll kind of sit and zone out until someone calls him over.
Oh, yes. If you're already sat at a table, I think On would sort of just blindly move towards the table rather than pick a different one and be mindful of the fact that you might have emotions to work through.
Yeah, that would make sense. I figured, he's sitting at the table that Emily was at, so she probably left, and then On probably came in or started, finished serving drinks by then.
Yep. Right.
After taking his wine and taking a few sips, Eridu starts to absentmindedly shuffle through his deck of tarot cards. Announce all of the natural ones.
I mean, if people are playing the game, then I mean, we're already on an honor system here at Roll for Mischief, and that just makes it even more serious. You gotta announce your natural ones.
A 1 followed up by a 2, so a natural 12. If you want to take that, you can drink for that.
No, that's not the way it works. It's not the way it works. Stop. Stop.
If there's
Oh,
a one involved in the number.
No.
By those rules, you have like a 55% chance of drinking.
Yeah.
And it's got to be on like attack rolls and saving throws and whatever. Like, okay, so
Oh, 50.
what are you guys talking about? What?
So, I have had a rather interesting morning, but it seems to not have progressed as quickly as I would like. My estimates are that my rate of investigation is going to take some time, perhaps days or weeks. How have you two done?
I had a good sleep and I ate in my room, and then I went shopping. I got a couple potions.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I did today.
I did not sleep well, and I went and I bought a pomegranate, and I cried. No, there were no shoeboxes involved. We have not invented those yet. Jennifer said that I went home and farted in a shoebox.
That sounds like Eridu right now.
Can we go home and fart in a shoebox?
That sounds like him.
Anywho.
So, since we have no further information, perhaps it would be best to refresh in our minds what we do have. We have an odd and elusive employer that recruits small children
Yes.
to act as messengers and agents. And they also employed us, not small children, as agents to guard a shipment of something I can't quite recall. Did we have a look at the shipment?
No.
I don't believe we did. So an unknown shipment going by boat underneath one of the central islands, which just so happens to be the territory of some hitherto unknown subterranean druid group who feel subjugated by those over the land. I was, until this point, unaware of such people, for which I feel woefully ignorant. And then it seems that there's a drug on the streets causing people to transmute into bestial forms of themselves, and they are somehow driven underground to attack these subjugated druids.
Is it somehow?
Well, either through some natural inclination and machination, or through some other design, perhaps someone leading them down there, or funneling them somehow, or
That's what I
perhaps
would assume.
introducing a drive.
That's what I would assume, is that someone's funneling them. If you have a problem with, for the lack of a better word, an overdose of this drug, that you want to keep under wraps, and you have a people that you would like to get rid of, why don't you kill two birds with one stone?
Are you suggesting that perhaps the addiction to this drug is being either introduced by or exacerbated by a third party whose end result goal is to attack and possibly even destroy the druid cult below?
No, I think they just are being opportunistic. That is, instead of helping people, big folk find a way of using every possible resource to gain advantage over each other. So
the drugs you're suggesting are a separate issue, but it's being taken advantage of by whatever party wishes to get rid of the druids.
Yes.
So who doesn't like the druids? It seems to, from our discussions with them, it seems to have been a wholly unconscious prejudice that the groups of people industrializing and building up Twin Harbors just simply ignored the plight of the Druids.
Yes, I do not think that that there's anybody in particular who doesn't like them. I just think they view everyone as hating them.
Traffickers. If they attempted to attack us for a toll.
Right.
If traffickers are constantly dealing with that, which is why we went on that job in the first place, is to deal with them, would traffickers not want to take care of them in order to stop them?
I think we underwent a very rare circumstance. I do not know how often traffic follows its way through the sewers.
That's another thing that bothers me. Why would this unknown benefactor that hired us and paid us very well for our services for a single day's work, why would they want to go through that territory knowing that they would need an escort when they could just as easily circumvent around the island?
Because
Continue on the
whatever they are dealing with is not legal. If they circled around the island, they would be stopped by any patrols, the new patrols. Before all of these troops stationed themselves in Twin Harbors, and before we had an active guard, I'm sure these sorts of processes could have been done in the open. But now that there is an active defensive community, they have to be much more secretive, putting them in conflict with these druids who've probably been ignored for quite some time, and now find themselves being harassed by criminal organizations that have to find sneakier ways of doing their business.
Well, that's my point, though, is that all of a sudden there's this new problem where they could, because they had to pay us 600 gold to deal with this problem with these druids. How often are they spending 600 gold? Would it not be easier for them to abuse these victims of this drug that either they or a rival gang is introducing to the populace for greedy profits at the expense of your fellow men?
You're quite right, Alton. Profit will be a driving force. If it's 600 gold pieces for them to traffic goods through the territory of the Druids, then we have to surmise that them circumventing around the island would be more expensive for them. Therefore, they might be expecting the cargo to be lost entirely, which means that it's either difficult to bribe a guard, or it's not a certainty. Which means that we can trust that the authorities of Twin Harbors are trustworthy, at least in this regard.
And yet, I do not know that I could find that true. I have reason to believe one of the head guards is actually working directly for the Tackentires, and although they are a reputable family and pay their debts, they have shown already their interests are not anything but for themselves. The politics of Twin Harbors is something that I am not pleased with right now.
And who is this dwarf fellow with the guilds? Are we to suspect that perhaps the guilds are the ones that hired us for this boating issue in the first place?
Being that the guilds essentially run Twin Harbors. I'm sorry, I really badly want to keep calling this place Cold Harbor. Being that the guilds run the Twin Harbors, I'm sure that they have hands in something that's going on, especially with the economy. There's no way they wouldn't.
Were you referring to Darius?
I was, yes. Because I understand that Darius we could be meeting at 10, and then at midnight we could meet someone higher up in the organization that did hire us. But I was just voicing a suspicion that perhaps they're not too far removed from each other.
Yeah, the Darius's family is not like an official guild in and of themselves, but they're like, it's like they have their own shipping company and it has dealings with all sorts of other guilds. So they're definitely like connected, but they like since they're not a guild, they don't have like political representation in the structure of Twin
Okay.
Harbor.
Ah, so they're not like an official guild then.
Not an official
Okay.
guild, no.
Kyle,
Yeah.
All right.
check Zoom chat.
Okay.
It's a private message.
Yes, it's totally private. You guys can't know anything about it. It's secretive and deadly. All right. So
Hold. No, never mind.
go ahead.
No, it was not to do with the game. It was to do with the chat. Sorry.
Well, either way, we are probably going to go and see both of these people. And I think that we can speculate all that we would like. No amount of speculation is going to actually prepare us for what we're walking into.
So, what information would help us decide one way or the other? What would demonstrate to us that Darius is not connected to the drugs, the harm to the druids, or the shipping?
Honestly, he probably is.
If anybody is attempting to be secretive and hide things from us, I'm going to assume that they are likely performing the worst possible thing that we can imagine. For instance, I'm going to go out of my way and assume the druids are enacting some sort of ritual that's going to meld the Feywild and the Twin Harbors in a very disastrous way. I'm going to assume that this dwarf, Darius, is working with an organization which has far more capital than I will ever see, and therefore is capable of turning heads in ways that could be very dangerous. Likewise, the affiliates who paid us, we'll be meeting at midnight. These people are very wealthy and could make us disappear if they need to. We're going to be setting ourselves into a situation where we might not come out on top. But we're already so far into it that I don't think there's a way out. And to do nothing is to subject thousands of people to this disastrous fate of mutation, and I don't even want to think about it.
I feel less comfortable about the midnight meeting than I do with Darius. Darius met us relatively in the open, albeit at night and in the dark, but still, he confronted us directly and invited us to the meeting place. So I feel more comfortable going and meeting with him. This meeting at midnight, we had to threaten and cajole a small boy into giving up the location. And it's not necessarily a booked meeting. The people may not want to see us there. It may be a little aggressive. I would recommend that one of us that feels most capable perhaps find a place to hide in the building earlier and scout it out. No?
This is a good idea.
Yes? I would volunteer for the situation if no one else does.
I can blend in well in a crowd.
I think given that these people hire children very regularly, Alton, you would probably have a very easy it'd probably be quite easy for you to sneak in and go unnoticed.
Yes.
Just don't bring your wolf.
Yes, I know. That would be obvious. Thank you for that. I appreciate the solid advice.
We're always
And
available for that.
if our meeting with Darius runs over, I would volunteer to stay behind with Darius while Eridu, you go on with Alton to this midnight place. As I say, I feel quite uncomfortable about the situation in general, and I would hate to cut short any circumstance where we might learn more about what's going on. If we run out of time, ideally I'd want to come with you.
Yes. And hopefully it won't take too long to meet with Darius.
While talking is a free action, it should take some amount of time.
Wait, so recap for me what you're planning. Like, you're gonna like not be at the meeting with Darius. Is that what's
No,
going
no,
on, or you are?
and Eridu are going to the meeting with Darius. I am slipping into the meeting with the mysterious benefactor of our smuggling trip into the building or into the bar, and kind of establishing far in advance, so that way, if anything goes down, I'm on the ready.
Mm-hmm.
And then once the meeting with Darius is over, if
if the meeting's over, On and Eridu go to the place where Alton is.
right,
And if the meeting with Darius is running on a little, and we might miss it, then we'd then split the party further, and On would stay with Darius. Eridu would go and meet up with Alton in that place.
Don't split the party.
Oh yeah, no, somebody's gonna die.
Someone's gonna die if you split the party, guys. That's like D&D 101. You guys never took that class in college?
In your social encounter, then we all deserve to have a TPK.
Dude, social encounters are some of the best ways to die.
Yeah, yeah.
How did your character die? I was talking.
I'll be back in.
words
I'll be back in like 1 to 2 minutes. Just keep planning while I'm gone.
Okay.
Well, I think we have a pretty solid plan. So probably right now we should have a few celebratory drinks.
Yes.
With Darius, I want to point out, if he's truthful, he is my most. If he's truthful and open and honest with us, regardless of what his intentions are, I would far rather go with him. I don't like getting in bed with people I don't trust.
Yes.
I will get in bed with people that I don't trust as long as they pay the correct fee.
I suppose what bothers me the most is the fact that we're not sure what evidence would be suffice to convince us of any particular situation. The demon laughs you good as especially one D&D.
Yep,
Yep, we win.
we win. Game over. This is the
I knew
second time
that's not
today where we just gotta call the stream, guys. I'll see you later. Thanks for coming. We won.
Oh,
Yep.
Now we're gonna go get drunk in real life.
Right?
Yeah, so okay, so if this Darius guy has a massive mustache that he twirls,
You
and
know he's
has
a villain.
like some damsel tied up that he's about to place on rail tracks when we don't even have trains, then I think he's a villain.
But if he's open about it,
Oh yeah, if he's just like, oh, I'm doing this, by the way, guys, you can stop me at any moment. Then
right?
yeah,
If he says that I'm going to kill these people, I'm far happier working with them because I know what I'm getting into. I don't like druids who refuse to talk to share with us.
Right. Even someone who comes off as honest as humanly possible, they may be hiding much of the truth.
That's true.
The druids are an odd faction. I feel that subconsciously I've been ignoring them as players in this game as well, because they portrayed themselves so successfully as victims. I've just not considered that they may in fact be somewhat involved. It could very well be, as a potential hypothetical situation. The druids introduce a drug that they know is bad for the population, but that they know once they get a few people hooked on it, if they start with a small amount, that these people will then either fund the importing of this substance, which is useful for the druids when intermixed with blood, and having people voluntarily take the stuff is better than kidnapping people and forcing it into them. Or the druids get people hooked and they find some way of getting it themselves. The druids may not be involved in the transportation of this drug, but they're somehow benefiting from it. It could be that they were the ones to introduce it in the first place. And someone is, as you suggested, Alton, turning the tables on them, convincing the more aggressive victims of this drug to drive down and attack the druids.
Yes. These are all. There are too many variables, which is why I'd rather work with somebody who is honest.
Yeah.
I don't know who to trust, and so at this point, I would rather trust the devil I know than the one I don't.
So do you say you trust the dwarf more?
Until he lies to us, yes.
I told you all the plot was thickening. It's crazy. Like, you guys don't even know like anything about nothing, dude. But that's a lot of good ideas. Yeah.
If he's honest, if he doesn't try to, because so far the only people we've talked to are people who've lied or who have kept secrets from us. He's the only one that has not kept us in the dark.
He's also the only one who met up with us in the dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not true. The druids met us in the sewer.
In all fairness, though, we did start the day. That wasn't his fault.
That was a hard day's night.
That's
Yes. Oh, I got the reference. I just refused to.
Alright, well, I think there's not much more we can do, but wait.
Yes, let us continue along this helter-skelter and move to the
Shall
place where the stone bells
we
are.
have Alan get us some more drinks? Alan!
Alan!
Alan! Alan comes along, still a smile beaming on his face. And, he mentions something like, it's been so wonderful here lately. I haven't seen Garth in upwards of a week. It's been incredible. I've so much more food to serve to my other patrons.
I'm
not seen
sorry,
Garth
hold
in a
on.
week?
Alan,
Yes.
you've not seen Garth in a week?
No. And I'm so thankful. I'm so happy. He looks like he's about to shed a tear.
Huh.
I think it should be noted that Garth never tips.
No.
I would like to immediately and quite rudely get up and storm out of there.
Okay.
And once out, I will head towards Garth's office and meet up with his secretary lady that I've met once before.
Do we have a name? Do we have a name for this secretary lady?
I will
Wife.
find that. I'll turn to Alan and say, I am sorry for that. I will cover his bill.
Oh, it's
Elaine.
That's it.
Elaine, there
Elaine.
you go.
I'm glad you found that out before I did.
Yeah, Alan is not phased, and he's just so happy. Like, yes, I can trust you, Eridu. Absolutely.
And Eridu's going to order another wine.
All right, and he'll have it for you pretty quickly. So on you storm up to the office, and Elaine is behind the desk looking quite frazzled. Her hair is, let's say, unkempt, and she's got some bags under her eyes. Looks like she's been a little stressed out lately, and she has got just reams of paperwork in front of her. And she's like cross-referencing stuff and writing down numbers, and she hardly notices you approaching. But when she does, she looks a little shocked. Ah! Hi!
Hello.
How may I help you?
Oh, I apologize. Elaine, hello. I've not seen you since I had a more natural skin tone, and I apologize. I recognize that I'm now green. On Thenois.
I see. No, now that I know about the green thing, I mean, I recognize you.
Thank you.
Remind her that you were friends with Akram. She really liked him.
Yes, I was friends with Okrim before he passed.
Oh.
I stopped being his friend because he passed.
Oh. Yes, Akram was such a dear. It was really so sad.
It was. Very difficult.
Yes.
I had to speak at his funeral, and I found the event very hard. To speak in front of so many people was the hardest thing. I think I was perhaps the most uncomfortable and saddest person there.
I'm sure.
Hmm.
How may I help you?
Oh, yes, the reason for me being here. Elaine, is Garth okay?
Garth is fine.
Oh, oh, good.
Yeah.
Some regulars at his usual haunt have become a little concerned at his absence, and I was just wondering if I could perhaps fetch anything in the way of a chicken soup or anything to help ease his ailment.
No, she looks around and she just says, "You don't need to worry about Garth getting enough food at all." Garth, I appreciate your concern. He's fine. He's very busy. There's a lot of things going on lately, as you know, as you've seen, and she just kind of like gestures out the window in a general way. The way things have been lately, you can't imagine what the captain of the guard needs to go through these days. So, yeah, he's fine, but thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. Do let him know that I was asking after him, and yes, if there's ever anything that I can do, let him know that I've found myself in close relations to people who are able to ship things about more easily. And so if he's ever needing something, he just needs to get in touch. I would like to point out that On is trying to seem like he's got underworld connections, but like an 8-year-old making up in the playground that he has underworld connections.
For sure. She just goes like, Okay, well, it's been a pleasure to see you. And I'm very busy. I'm sorry.
Are you? Well, perhaps I could help. All this paperwork seems to be cluttering up your desk and stopping you from working. Should I get rid of it for you? I'll sort of gesture my hands as if I'm about to cast a fireball or something.
I need all of it here.
Oh.
But please have a good day.
All right, I will. Thank you, Elaine. I'll just turn around and walk out.
She has a very interesting, exasperated look on her face as you march out.
On could not let Eridu be the only person to have an awkward conversation.
Like I said before, I support you guys through all of this. You're doing great. You're doing
I
great.
felt like I was the most sad.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes, I'll return to the cornerstone, and I will discuss that. I have a theory.
Oh, On. Where'd you come from? By now, Eridu's pretty well drunk.
Oh, I went to go and visit Elaine, Garth's assistant. I have suspicions that perhaps there's something more going on there.
Do you mean Garth's wife?
Oh, are they married?
Yes, I attended their wedding.
Oh. Well, in that case, that would help explain that suspicion I have. I do have another suspicion. That perhaps Garth is involved in some more seedy things.
No. Garth?
No.
I suspect that perhaps if he were to suspect that we were somehow connected with seedy, underworldy things, that perhaps he'd let us into the inner circle and we'd learn everything there is to learn about everything going on in Twin Harbors. And I think I'm on to a winner there. I managed to successfully convince Elaine that I am such a person with connections.
Oh, well, we'll have to convince Garth that I don't hate him then, because the last time we spoke there were not kind words between us.
suppose thankfully I haven't established a connection between the two of us. Simply that I knew Okrim and was a friend of his, and that you are a friend of his, or were a friend of his. I assumed you stopped being friends with him too.
No, no, Akram and I are still friends.
Oh. You'll need to explain that one to me in a moment.
Well, why would we stop being friends?
He's not here anymore.
But just because someone is gone does not mean you walked out of the tavern. You and I are still friends, are we not? You
Yes,
were
we
gone. You were gone, but now you're back. Death is much the same way. I've seen people who have been dead for many years just back.
But we are not friends when I sleep.
We are friends when you sleep.
By the way, Alton isn't laughing as hard as I am right now.
But when you're still you when you sleep, aren't you? Do you become someone new?
Well, no, but I'm not
Well-
aware of you when I'm asleep, so therefore we cannot be friends.
But awareness is not indicative of friendship. What if you were asleep and I was not? And I stood there watching you sleep, and I'm still your friend because there you are, my friend, existing. Eridu is friends with everyone.
We're trying to say that Eridu gets around. That's what we're trying to get to.
Well, you would be my friend when I'm awake.
Ooh, Eridu gets tossed. Alright, so
and,
yeah.
and I would be your friend when you're awake. But we can only be friends together when we're both awake, surely. If one of us is entirely unaware of the friendship, then it can't be a two-directional thing. I could be very fond of a table, but it is unaware of me. I still like the table. I am a friend of the table. But the table is not a friend of mine.
You can't be friends with an inanimate object. It does not have sentience and it can't think for itself.
And does a sleeping person?
Yes. Yes.
Oh. The many times that I've snuck into your chambers while you've been sleeping, you've entirely been ignorant of my presence and not answered
Well,
me.
Of course, I'm cognizant of your presence and wait. What are you sneaking in my chamber?
It's getting close to 10 o'clock. Perhaps we should go and meet up with Darius.
Oh, that late already? Really? Really?
I really want to explore this conversation. Go on.
We can't leave yet. I'm still.
This adventure is gonna be a shit show if you guys are already like this. Like, we haven't even gotten to the adventure part yet. Oh my goodness.
I can stand up. I can do this. Yes, I can do this. Give me a second. Hold on. It's gonna
So
happen.
wait, just one quick question on before we.
Alton, I need your help. I need you. Be my little like cane or something. Help me out here.
I just want to know: are you talking to me in my sleep?
I've not had
Is
much
this a
occasion-
thing that you do just with Eridu, or should I be locking my door?
Well, I did initially think that it was simply Eridu and Okrim, but several of the other citizens of Twin Harbors similarly ignored me while they sleep.
You're like a serial sleeping, peeping Tom.
Oh my god. You are the funniest person that has ever existed, Drew. Oh, okay.
On to Darius, I think. Oh.
So, I believe if Akram would hear, he would say something like, "You can't sneak into people's bedchambers while they sleep."
And it's quite simple. Latches are very easy to open.
No. You can, but you shouldn't. There's a moral something.
It's in bad taste.
Yes,
Oh.
it tastes bad.
No. Oh God.
First of all, I think the DM needs like a gavel. Like this is the closest thing I have to a gavel, so I'm just gonna be like hitting my gavel.
Okay, we'll
So
move
I'm
on.
gonna use DM. I'm just gonna
Some-
use DM powers. Wait, what
Some
was that?
people who have played with me recognize that when my character gets drunk, I just go off on a tangent.
You do, and
Usually
I.
it ends in egging buildings.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna use my DM gavel and say
Garth,
that your
Alan,
guys's
Alan,
your
we
guys'
need eggs.
conversation is getting kind of drowned out. You hear like these. You've been hearing this chanting coming from outside, and it just it just seems like this kind of there's been this call and response,
Kick the man, yeah.
loud chant going on from outside. And you remember that the cornerstone is directly adjacent to one of these like wide plazas in the town. So you're actually like just outside of this meeting place in the town, and it's getting into evening time, and there's been this
But it's
swell.
not actually 10.
It's not actually 10. No, not quite yet. But it's getting into this evening time, and there's been a swell of people into the plaza. And if you guys care to even just open the window and look and see what's going on outside,
Yes, I'm very curious about this.
it looks to be like a political rally. And a speaker gets introduced, and it's dude, I already forgot his name though. Orin Vitrell, that's his name. He's the representative from the Guild Council, essentially a politician that has taken responsibility to eradicate the drug problem of Sapphire Dream. And he gets introduced to speak, and he gives this rousing political speech where he's shouting at the crowd and getting them to chant back at him, and he's just reinforcing this whole thing. We're going to get rid of this drug scourge. He's a human male, and he's very aggressive in his political kind of rhetoric that he's throwing out there.
So his name is Orin?
Orin Vitrell. Orran.
Well, haven't we heard that
VI
name Vitrell before in this game?
Vitrell?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
Okay.
Maybe.
No, I don't think so.
I play too much D&D. I probably have heard that quite recently. It's a cool name. I got it. I want to make sure that I know who this person is before he dies
Yeah.
brutally. I mean, I
Mhm.
don't have assumptions.
Yeah. So
Okay.
it's essentially like that's going on outside. Just wanted to give you guys something more to set the scene. But you're at this point where if you so wish it, if you guys are done planning, then you guys can just fast forward time and execute your plan.
I definitely am in need of some eggs and food. Food, for sure.
Okay, we'll make
Yes,
sure that
that's really good.
Alan gets you set up with some food before you pass out.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not sure. I don't know. Guys, what do you think? Should we divert and have a look at the political rally for a bit, or do you think we should try and thrust forward with the main adventure?
You help me up. I would love to go into the streets.
Alton has no concern whatsoever yet. He has no emotional connection to this city. So this is nothing to do with the adventure as far or their job as far as he's concerned. So he will.
Yeah.
If you guys go, he's not staying.
On also has concerns about potentially being swept up in something else and not being able to finish his investigations of the druids and meet up with Darius and that lot. So
Is there something I can roll to get a little more information on what Eridu might know about Orin Vitrell? Because I'm assuming that he would probably know something about it.
You what did I used like history as far as
yeah,
like
history seems to cover well,
it's like
history
current
and politics and
Yeah, history of politics. It's just kind of
The
like
history of
I kind of see of it as
politics.
current events. You know, it's like if it was a week in the past or 2 weeks in the past, that's history, right?
I mean, if it was yesterday, it's history.
It's history, dude.
All right,
So-
throw
I
a
think
dice
it's
at
just
the wall.
rolling history.
Oh, I did not roll well though. I rolled a 6. That's an 11 in total.
Mm-hmm. You know that he has beautiful brown hair. I'm just kidding. Essentially, you are only able to recall in your drugged up day
Drunk?
after state drunk. Yeah, essentially. In your state, you're only able to recall just like the main defining features. You know that you can recall what guild he represents, and
Ooh, that's important
he represents essentially like the port authority.
Oh.
There's a guild that has taken over all like the administrative stuff for like keeping track of all the shipments that are coming through. So they're not like a
No, I know,
shipping
The
company.
Port Authority means
Cool.
something else.
Oh.
It does. I don't know. I'm just like throwing words around. Look, I don't fucking know words. Yeah, but
I'll
so
turn to-
like whatever term you want to use to describe like the administrative arm
No.
of
No, it makes sense. It's just the Port Authority is
it, what does that actually mean?
We're sticking with Port Authority. It sounds better.
Yeah. No, Port Authority is fine.
I'll turn to On and
Okay.
Alton and say, Oren Vitrell, we might be interested in hearing what he has to say. He is pretty much the one in charge of the security of our ports. He kind of has a bit of authority over these ports, like a port authority.
Okay, I'll Google it if no one's gonna tell me. I'll Google it.
Okay, Port Authority has a lot of. It is well known as being a place for homosexual encounters. In New York
So Eridu is definitely interested in this Oren now.
It's an actual port terminal, the New York Port Authority terminal, but it's just funny because it has those implications.
It's a governmental or quasi-governmental public authority for a special purpose district, usually formed by a legislative body or bodies to operate ports and other transportation infrastructure.
Yes,
Well, back to the game. Shut up.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I just had to say it.
What wasn't Darius involved in some kind of shipping, and weren't we employed by someone who had us guard a ship going through sewers?
There does seem to be a nautical connection.
And this,
Nautical.
it would seem that Oren is probably in direct conflict with both of our potential hiring parties.
This is a potential fifth party in our web of intrigue here. We have Darius and his family, Oren and the Port Authority. We have our mysterious benefactor. We have the Druids, and we have whoever is bringing drugs into Twin Harbors.
Oh, Nightbot is on a roll tonight.
Oh, I gotta see this. Oh wow. Scram CX, dude. Wow.
Just don't get too offensive, and we're fine. I don't care about these swear words. Nightbot does, and I can tell him to shut up.
I'm surprised that Ass is caught by it though.
Okay, so Nightbot, anybody who wants to know, I set up the Nightbot account, and I just took a big list online of just potentially offensive words and threw it on there. It's got all of the base swear words, plus many variations. If you were present when I screwed with it, I said fucking. Just like, no, not ing, but just in, so. Anywho, so Nightbot is going to flag a bunch of stuff. As long as you don't, like, swear a bunch, really, like, in succession, it'll be fine.
That's good.
We probably don't need this to make it to the YouTube thing, because it's not applicable whatsoever. It'll
Yeah.
get
Oh, it's good.
Yeah, it's a quasi PG stream unless you are playing in it, and then you can say whatever the fuck you want.
R-rated,
It's
baby.
more so that way we can see what's going on to see if to like have a quick at a glance to see if anyone's going to become like offensive or belligerent.
Yeah.
It's
Like you can be reasonable human being and cuss. Just we want to make sure that if I see Nightbot, I'm looking at is someone being an asshole. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah,
no
so
belligerence.
we've
nothing
got these
racist.
5 potential parties, as far as I can see so far.
It's a wicked web that you guys have stumbled into.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it could be that some of these parties are going to collapse down into actually being involved with each other and being one thing, but these are 5 distinct things. It might be worth looking further into this Orin.
Yes, it might be.
Do you think now, while he's at a rally, is ideal for that, or should we go and meet up with Darius and
Well-
find Orin later?
We could just hear what he is saying and maybe apply that to our perspective.
That seems reasonable. But yes, I suggest that we leave in good time. We'll listen to as much as we can before we have to leave to meet up with Darius.
For sure. I need to get some kind of coffee or something. I am sorry. I did not mean to reach this point of inebriation.
Alan swoops in and he has a steaming mug ready for you. It's got
Alan,
the
you
telltale
are-
steam.
You are such a dear. I love your bald head. Have I ever told you this before?
You just caught me on a good day.
A wonderful hair day.
Yes.
In my head, Alan is like my buddy Robert, who's the bartender down the road.
Yeah.
Just who
Yeah,
he
I
is.
believe it. I believe it. So if you guys, you're pretty much like leaving
Oh, no.
Cornerstone, and what you hear from the political rally, you hear the last little bit of it, and this is the part where Orin Vitrell is like he's done his like trying to get the crowd all amped up, and now he's like really trying to hit them in the soft spot, and he starts telling all these stories of innocent citizens of Twin Harbor whose lives are being ruined by the scourge of Sapphire Dream. Or actually, he uses the official name Ethereum. Is the official name of the drug. He says, "The scourge of Ethereum, it will not stand. Take this case, this bright, beautiful young soul, torn apart." And yeah, he just shares story after story. You know, it's like each one of them is more dramatic than the last, and the whole rally ends kind of on a down note. And he does some more angry shouting, gets the crowd like riled up in a more violent way, and then he departs with an entourage. That's the word I'm looking for. Entourage of city guard.
So, City Guard has been imposed within, I think it's been 5 months now, maybe 4, and already they're just like up in everyone's business. As you can tell, that's me thinking out loud, not Eridu talking, because
Yeah.
no drunken Eridu accent.
God damn it. I really want to look at your notes, Kyle.
No comment.
Okay. Let's go to Darius. Let's find out more of what we can.
Yes. That's my favorite so far, Al N.
Alan? All right, so I will set the stage just very briefly. That gets to be very late in the day. The sun sets. It is around about 10 o'clock, and you guys are heading to the eastern docks of Twin Harbor to find the Bottle and Blade Tavern. the Bottle and Blade Tavern. That is the meeting place that Darius had set up for you guys. You can tell already that the eastern docks, for some reason, are like the seedier version of the docks. Like, the western docks are like a little better maintained. They have less taverns out there on the western docks than the other one. And the Bottle and Blade is easy enough to find. The worn, crackling sign still has the lettering visible enough. Everything here is lit by oil lamps, and the smell of salt is strong in the air. And remind me again, like, how you're splitting the party.
Yes,
Confirm.
Those two are staying together. I'm going to the other place.
You're going to the Fey Lounge.
Yeah, I'm going to the Fey Lounge, and I'm basically setting up early so that way it's not weird that I'm there, like, off in the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if I were to go in with them and then I went off in a corner, it would be weird.
Sure.
But now I can basically, like, be Overwatch, and in case something goes down, I can just be on it.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay. So Eridu and On, you are walking up to the Bottle and Blade. Alton, are you taking Domni with you?
Domni is going to. No, she's going to stay in my room, my rented room.
Very well. Domni, not with you.
Correct.
All right.
I don't need to draw that kind of attention to myself.
For sure. So you're heading to the Fey Lounge, which is a little further down the docks in another patch of seedy-looking buildings. And we'll go ahead and get into what happens at those respective locations after we take our short break. We're pretty close to...
Actually starting the game?
Huh? We're pretty close to
an hour in, and we haven't actually started playing.
No, we were playing. It was just the most awesome part of the campaign.
It was pretty great. Yeah, stay tuned. We'll be back in 5 minutes or so, and we'll get this show on the road.
We'll get that show right on the road.